Hey friends, tonight's story might just surprise you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me your city and your local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in Sparta's lamplit hall, breathing resin and sea salt. Helen is here, queen of Sparta, wife to Menelaus. That's the mainstream fact. Paris arrives like a rumor learning to walk, carrying a golden apple promise he should never have accepted. Do not try this decision model at home. You probably won't survive this if you pretend consequences nap. They talk in a corner bright enough for excuses. A palace dog thumps its tail once and goes back to sleep. The original battery-free security. A quirky tidbit slips in. Some Spartan brides had their hair cut and wore men's cloaks, a ritual that blurs roles like costumes. Historians still argue whether the real Helen ever sailed. Some say a divine phantom went to Troy while Helen cooled her sandals in Egypt. Menelaus is away. The oath of her former suitors, the oath of Tyndareus, already tightens like a cord. Down at Gythian, sails whisper awake. You follow, a shadow taking notes. The moon wedges into rigging. The sea pretends to sleep badly. Paris stares at the horizon like a gambler. Helen watches the middle distance, which rarely argues. Lucky it's not on social media. Pours test water commit. Shoreline slides back with polite regret. Stars overdo it, terrible timing. You taste salt and the price of cities. Remember the apple, the oath, the dog minding its own business. The chain begins with small links. You pull your cloak closer and step toward a story that is already spending the next 10 years of other people's lives. You reach the beach at Aulis where oaths become logistics. Dawn slides over masts. Tar, salt, and will breathe together. Heralds pace the sand, tallying crews while you lift a round shield that smells of sweat and olive oil. Mainstream fact, the Greek coalition forms under Agamemnon. Ships from Mycenae, Pylos, Ithaca, Salamis, and more crowd the tide. The wind sulks. Some mutter Artemis is offended. A stag appears in rumor, and another tale hides behind it. You watch the sea because ambiguity travels faster than goals. Historians still argue whether a real armada gathered here, or if later bards stitched many voyages into one. You drill on the shore. Spear cast, shield lock, the clatter that trains nerves. Odysseus interviews rope. Nestor advises the foam. Ajax prefers solutions involving momentum. Achilles arrives with thunderstorm energy. Quirky tidbit. Sailors trust dolphin omens. One leaps by the prows, and half the camp relaxes like someone finally found coffee. Quartermasters count grain, you count heartbeats. A scruffy dog steals dried fish and becomes morale officer. Sails swell with light. Trumpets persuade the morning to stand up straight. You march to the gangplank as thousands do the same. The sand combed by footprints now, like lines on a map. Above the roar, you hear it again. Apple, oath, and the price of choosing. The fleet leans seaward, a city of wood and weather, and you are inside its breath, moving toward walls that have opinions. By noon, the plain before Troy shimmers. The sun behaves like an unpaid stage light. Shields lock, spears tilt, and you try to look heroic while your sandal squeaks. Terrible branding. Trumpets press the air flat. Mainstream fact. This is a coalition under Agamemnon, and Homer will later sing of duels, chariots, and the wrath of Achilles that bends the whole war's timeline. Chariots rattle like portable thunder. You ride to the line, step down to fight, the late Bronze Age way. Historians still argue whether chariots here were mobile archer platforms or just fast delivery for spear-wielding elites. Either way, your stomach votes no on bumps. Thus tastes like warm pottery. The gull from earlier reappears, schedules another meeting, then screams at a helmet. Quirky tidbit. A veteran swings past in a boar's tusk helmet, the kind archaeologists actually find and Homer oddly remembers. White plates stitched on leather, prehistoric couture. Another fighter wears a linothorax, laminated linen stiff with glue. Eco-armor, very sustainable, marginally reassuring. Athena, rumor says, walks the ramparts. Apollo, rumor insists, oils the bowstring of the wind. You feel faith move through the ranks like a wave of invisible handshakes. A Trojan chariot arcs left. Ajax answers with the gravitational pull of a mountain in sandals. Somewhere Achilles laughs, like a storm, deciding which tree to compliment. You plant your spear, recall the apple, the oath, and the dog who knew when to log off. bronze rings on bronze, and for a heartbeat, the noise becomes a kind of ASMR. If your sleep app included screaming, you push, you yield, the line breathes. The day refuses to end, and the walls keep their opinions. Years learn to circle the bay. Tints fade from ochre to experienced, ropes memorize knots, and your shield picks up dents that feel like signatures. Mainstream fact: tradition fixes the Trojan War at 10 years, while the Iliad sings only a sliver near the end. Raids, truces, funerals, and a Greek rampart thrown up to guard the ships. You help stack timbers. The wall creaks like an old oracle clearing its throat. Stalemate has flavors. Sometimes it tastes like dust and onions, sometimes like strategy meetings that could have been tablets. Odysseus maps patience. Diomedes votes for night raids. Ajax proposes momentum. Nestor proposes paragraphs. Achilles sulks in a rumor you can't quite prove yet, but the camp breathes around a rumor the way sailors breathe around reefs. Omens stroll through the days wearing casual clothes. A hawk drops a snake midair. A fish bones itself on the beach. Your tent's flap snaps on a windless noon. Calchas studies birds until even the birds feel studied. Quirky tidbit: a well-timed sneeze can count as a yes. Someone sneezes in assembly, and suddenly the motion passes. Your sinuses wield surprising constitutional power. Historians still argue whether these signs reflect priestly calendars, clever propaganda, or simply the human need to make patterns hold still. Night brings little dramas. Dice thock on a board. A liar drifts. Someone tells the apple and O story again because repetition is a comfort and a warning. The camp dog, promoted to morale officer, patrols for spilled stew. You oil your spear with olive and think about choices that keep costing interest. The walls of Troy keep their opinions. Your side of the beach keeps its promises. The gull schedules another meeting for dawn. Nights stretch thin until one snaps. In a hush after dice and hymns, Odysseus asks for quiet wood and sharper silence. You lean closer as he sketches a shape that is both joke and judgment. A hollow horse big enough to swallow elite fighters, left as a gift, while the fleet pretends to sail away. Mainstream fact: later tradition credits Hippias as the builder, Odysseus as the mind, and a hand-picked squad as the cargo nobody declares at customs. The plan tastes like cedar and risk. You list problems: weight, wheels, smell, nerves. He answers with rope, resin, and rehearsal. Quirky tidbit: carpenters tap timbers and listen for hollows. Tonight, they'll do the opposite: build a hollow and make it sound solid. Someone files wooden pegs until they purr. The budget line reads, "one very big horse," which raises fewer questions than it should. Light joke number 1. Procurement loves vague nouns. Historians still argue whether the horse was metaphor, siege tower, battering ram, or even code for an earthquake cult of Poseidon, lord of horses and ground-shaking hooves. You don't adjudicate symbols. You count breaths in small air. Odysseus walks the ranks. Volunteers, not victims. He warns about splinters, silence, and no bathroom breaks. Light joke number 2. HR will not approve this mission. Outside, the gull schedules another meeting. The camp dog declines, guarding a single sardine like destiny. Hippias measures with thumbs and murmurs. Mallets heartbeat the beach. Wheels accept their round fate. You touch the smooth flank and feel the weight of apple, oath, and every dent your shield collected. The moon climbs aboard first. You follow with a whisper. May the walls keep their opinions a few hours longer. Light joke number 3. Code name could be subtler than horse, but subtlety missed the briefing. You grip a rope and lean your weight into the miracle of bad ideas made beautifully. Wheels mumble over sand. Resin-sweet timber towers above, the horse blotting half the sky. Pitch shines like night on its flanks. To hush the axles, a carpenter rubs olive oil, quirky but effective, and the whole contraption sighs like a sleepy ox. You murmur a prayer to pass as ordinary wind. At Troy's gate the walls keep their opinions. Trumpets chatter. Crowds pool like spilled dye. A single Greek, Sinon, stays behind with a face trained for sincerity. He monologues about sacrifice and home, about how the horse is an offering to Athena, too large for the gate on purpose, so it can ward off Greeks if kept inside. You admire the craftsmanship of the lie. It fits better than the pegs. Mainstream fact: Laocoon hurls a spear into the horse and shouts the line later Latin will condense to beware Greeks bearing gifts. The spear shudders. The cavity swallows the sound like a polite theater. Historians still argue whether the horse was a literal hollow engine, a metaphor for a siege tower, or even a memory of earthquake cult rites to Poseidon, lord of horses and ground-shaking hooves. Then the omen that edits priors. Sea snakes coil from the surf and crush Laocoon and his sons. Trojans see divine verdict. You see a story deciding its own weather. Somewhere on the rampart, Cassandra cries no, and the crowd treats prophecy like a terms of service pop-up. You remember the apple, the oath, the camp dog guarding a sardine, and the gull scheduling another meeting you won't attend. Ropes bite your palm as you help nudge destiny to the threshold. Then you slip away to the dunes where ships wait with muffled breath. Behind you, the gate yawns politely. The city invites the problem inside and thanks it for coming early. Night rehearses its lines. Inside the horse, air tastes of resin and borrowed courage. Knees press ribs. Your calf cramps files a complaint with management. You count heartbeats until it stops ticking like a nervous clock. Outside, Troy drowns itself in celebration. Flutes wander, door bars relax. Mainstream fact: a picked band, Odysseus, Menelaus, Neoptolemus, and others, hide within. Sinon waits to open the gates when night forgets to be careful. A pin of light, then darkness. The belly unlatches. You spill into cool stone, bronze wrapped with wool to smother clinks. Quirky tricks some tellers swear by. Faces smoked with soot to kill the shine. You move like a shadow that paid for lessons. Ladders whisper, cords surrender. A hinge sighs the softest yes. Ismar, but with splinters. Historians still argue whether this was a literal hollow horse, a horse gate misremembered, or code for a siege engine. They also debate whether the fleet truly hid behind Tenedos or simply waited offshore for the signal. You settle the only question you can, one foot, then the next. Sinon unbars the gates. From the dark water, the Greek ships grow teeth, oars, and bite the tide. Torches bud along the beach like late roses. You give the sign, the old oath wakes, and a wooden city slides into a walled one. Cassandra's voice threads the alleys. No one wants a prophecy on a party night. A courtyard dog lifts its head, decides you're a dream, and sleeps again. Excellent risk assessment. Somewhere a gull. How did it even get here? Schedules another meeting for dawn. You thread the streets by feel, storehouse, tower, gatehouse. Each a knot you practiced untying. Remember the apple. Remember patience pretending to be luck. The horse stands in the square like an innocent alibi, and you, quiet as olives, make room for morning to change its mind. Gates yawning, alleys breathing. You move with the hush that follows bad decisions home. Torches bud across rooftops. The horse stands innocent as an alibi while ladders flower along the wall. Mainstream fact: Troy falls. Temples breached, palaces emptied, the fleet pouring in through doors that thought they were stone and discover they are stories. Priam's name passes like a shaken bell. Aeneas gathers kin to flee toward a future that will borrow Rome's voice. Crowds ripple. A courtyard dog blinks at sparks, decides none of this passes the nap test, and curls tighter. Model risk management. You steer by memory. Storehouse, tower, gatehouse. Each unknots as rehearsed. Quirky tidbit. Some tellers say Aeneas carries the household gods. Small figurines wrapped in cloth. Because home can be lighter than a city and still weigh enough to guide a road. Historians still argue whether the burnt layer at Hizarlik is this night or another. Whether trade wars, quakes, or both braided the ruin. Whether our horse was timber, tower, or metaphor with good carpentry. The walls, which spent years having opinions, finally run out of sentences. Roof beams exhale, bronze cools, shouts turn to ash in the mouth. You glance back once. Apple, oath, goal that never stops scheduling, the long arithmetic of choices. Then forward to the tide, where oars become teeth and the ships bite morning. Smoke lifts, and the stars look away as if pretending they were clouds. You do not cheer. You count breaths, steady as oars, and let the city shrink to a lesson you will remember more quietly than you lived it. Slow now. Let the shore fall behind like a page you've already read, the edges soft for being held too long. The water settles under the keel, a long, even cradle, and the hiss along the hull lowers itself to a whisper you can lean against. The air smells of pine pitch and salt. Even the smoke thins to a faint, far ribbon, the kind that unspools without tugging on anything inside you. Your hands unclench. The shield grows lighter, not because it weighs less, but because the night agrees to carry half. The names that thundered, Agamemnon, Achilles, Hector, lose their capital letters and become simple footsteps walking toward sleep. Breathe in, count 4. Breathe out, count longer. Let the breath be a rope across a quiet harbor, steadying the boat while the tide remembers how to be patient. If a gull drifts near, it is only a white comma on a dark sentence, pausing the line so your pulse can catch up. If a dog dreams on some far deck, it is only the warm proof that ordinary things remain. The apple is only fruit again. The oath is a page closed without a sound. You can set them down. You can let them stay set down. The sea gives back its small noises, rope against wood, wood against water, water against sky. And they blur, then soften, then stretch into a single thread that pulls you gently toward the edge of waking. Stars thicken, then dim behind your eyelids. The ship breathes, and you match it, slower each time. No towers fall here. No gates open. There's only distance growing kind, and night arranging itself like a blanket. Stay with the rhythm. In and softer out. In and gentler out. The story will be here in the morning. For now, let it fold itself quiet, like sails after a fair wind.